Now for the JRPG I'm looking forward to, this is going to be one of those weeks where I'm actually going to be talking about a potential JRPG instead of a specific JRPG that I'm looking forward to. And I thought this would be a very interesting one, where a JRPG that I would look forward to is a JRPG in VR. Now, I believe some of these do exist. Like I feel like I've seen some like on the Meta app where like there are like these JRPG looking games, but all of them, because of like how VR is and how it's still kind of like an emerging platform, they're all like very gimped, or like it's either very short or like you can't do that much stuff in it. One example, which I don't even know if I'd consider a JRPG, which was, I believe it was a game called Zenith, which me and my brother played. It was more of an MMO, but it had kind of a JRPG vibe, but like the mechanics in it were so simple where if it was a normal game, it just wouldn't be good. For example, like all the quests that me and my brother were doing when we were playing that in VR was like an NPC would be like, hey, can you gather 20 wheat for me? And you'd go gather 20 wheat. Or can you kill those 5 monsters for me? It was like simple shit like that, but it was still fun because it was in VR. But when I talk about wanting a JRPG in VR, what I mean is the exact experiences that I get in a JRPG normally, I want to experience that in VR. So as always, I'm going to use Tearal as an example, but when I play Tearal, what I like in it is it's a very detailed world. There are detailed characters. There are a fuck ton of NPCs that I can just talk to. There are fun battles, and there is a very nice cohesive plot. And it's a beefy story, like it's long. All those things usually you just don't get on VR because like I can't even imagine a 100-hour game in VR. That's just not a thing that happens right now. But I want to get to a point in the future where like just so we're like cemented and we can all think of like the same thing. Let's take Tearal 1 for example. That's a game that maybe some of you have played, but it's pretty much a JRPG, and it mostly takes place within a school, but every once in a while you do have to go to another town or city to play there, and you come back to school, and that's pretty much the game loop. And so let's take that game. It's like 80 hours for example, and imagine that in VR. That's the type of experience I want, where like you can actually be immersed and feel like you actually are a student in this school. There are some sections where you actually do have to like study and take tests, because there are very small like things in Tearal that do that. There are side quests where you have to do some weird stuff like swim or something. I'm not sure how that would work in VR, but at the same time, in the game there are certain sections where like you have to go to this like random town and explore it. Doing that in VR would be very cool. There are times where you have to go into a bigger city and explore that would be dope in VR. There's literally a location called I believe the Northern Highlands, I believe they're called, which is pretty much these big ass grass area where you have to explore on horseback. That would be pretty fucking cool in VR. I'm not sure how it would work. Again, a lot of this doesn't seem possible, but the reason I'm talking about this as an example is imagine that scope of game in VR and how amazing that experience would be, because these experiences are already very fucking cool on console or like on a controller on a TV. Imagine actually being able to be in the North Highlands and going through these grassy areas and seeing the mountain tops and like ancient statues and things like that. Like that's a pretty cool thing to think about. And imagine on top of that, there's a dope ass story, a lot of characters, NPCs you can talk to. You can actually feel like you're talking to people there. Like that would be very cool. And so that's what I mean when I say I want a JRPG in VR. It's not that I want a JRPG for VR how we see it today, where it'd be very short, it would be very simple. It's like, no, I want to like imagine, like, to even like if you never played Tearal, think of your favorite JRPG right now and imagine that was in VR. That's pretty much what I'm talking about, like the same scope, same detail. And I kind of imagine like how would they do that, because one of my favorite things in Tearal is literally, this may sound weird, but it's literally just talking to NPCs. I love getting plot through NPCs, and so in VR that would be very interesting, because I doubt they would give voices to everyone, so like it would still be like you just reading stuff. I'm not sure what the best way for that would be. Like maybe like they will literally just have like small speech bubbles on top of their heads, and that's the best way to do it. But being actually able to look at the NPCs in the eye, see their height, if you're like talking to like, you know, some kids just fucking around and playing around, just being actually able to crouch down and talk to them, that'd be a funny experience too. So just thinking about like little things like that and actually being immersed in a world, because there are so many places in Tearal games where like you're in like this small farm village and like the vibes seem so fucking immaculate, and actually being there in VR, seeing the sunset or whatever, like just like being in the town, like I can already imagine, and I would love that experience. And so yeah, just having the exact same experiences in VR that I get in JRPGs right now, I think is something that I'd want to experience at some point in my life. I don't think it's ever going to happen, because these are usually like pretty beefy experiences, but the more I think about just playing Tearal in VR, the more I'm like, this is something I definitely want at some point. I don't think it's ever going to be made, but again, this is a JRPG that I would look forward to.